Hey there, everybody. I'm Carson Grubaugh. Welcome to Living the Line, and we're back. Formalism Friday. Hey, Brandon, how's it going?
Good to see you, Carson. Things are good.
Things are good, and he's got formalisms back behind him there too,
Oh
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
wall.
You and No Escape comic way back there.
Yeah, I got to get a copy of that. When we go to con, I'm going to look for those Weasel. I'm going to
Oh
try
yeah,
and
yeah.
find some of those. That would be
Yeah, I
good.
have the Weasel issue that was in right here, the Dave Cooper comic.
Okay, so that's one of my goals for the con is to find more Weasel.
Nice.
Find any Weasel because I don't have any.
I think a new trade just came out recently, if I'm remembering right. It's the back cover.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to look online for it. It looks like 3D on the screen. Like the background is like moving.
Oh, interesting. Oh yeah, it's a really weird effect where it's just like a much lighter printed color, and my copy's faded, so that probably adds to it too.
But it's like doing something to the camera where it looks like it's doing this behind. I know it's not doing that in real life. It's just on the camera, but it looks like it's moving. That's very strange. Okay, well, that's a formalism in and of itself. How to print things that aren't 3D that look 3D on camera.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, and Dave Cooper's a really fascinating guy. I feel like comics might have lost him. He's moved on to fine art. I don't know if he'll ever come back.
Yeah, like when you lose people like Kent Williams and James Jean and stuff, you kind of lose them for good, I think, unfortunately. So speaking of fine art stuff, this is a guy that I think is bringing a lot of like fine art sensibilities. This is a piece by Andrew White. I forget what book it's out of, but me and you had talked about, there was one where it was like a consistent view of somebody's head. I think it was the Neil Adams one.
Mhm.
But then like the backgrounds changed, and then you were trying to draw like a big tiki head that someone was moving around amongst panels. And when I saw this, I thought this is like someone doing that idea that we were trying to pull off a little bit.
Yeah, and I'd read this before. I think this must have came out a couple years ago or longer even.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember reading this and being impressed by it, because it is such a cool trick.
And I think the thing that really, it's not only just someone moving around something, a stable object, but the fact that he's able to like this to this doesn't make sense just as a straight like walk around the thing.
Mhm.
But given this panel, that could very easily be like the base of this mountain, just as well as it could be like the mountain seen from far. And I thought that was a really clever way to deal with space and perspective.
Yeah, and it's plus it's just like an overlay, like images overlaid where it doesn't make you feel like everyone's ghosts or anything. Like even the bottom right panel that's just part of the same, um, part of the same larger image just feels like, oh yeah, these characters, you can see through them, but it doesn't mean they're see-through, which is an interesting thing that it conveys.
Well, and they're also, yeah, within that they're jumping through time. So it's like 682, 671, 655. So they are kind of ghostly because it's kind of like that Richard McGuire's Here, where the background is like constantly representing different times, but it's that stable viewpoint.
Oh yeah, the one that ran in Raw magazine, I think you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a whole book of that though. Have you not seen that? There's
Yeah, I haven't read the entire book, but yeah, it is an interesting idea, and yeah, that's cool. I wonder. Like it's been a while since I've read this, so I don't remember, but it'd be really interesting to see like the next page of just what he's carving the rock into.
Yeah, it evolves into like this like monolith over time. So it keeps playing this trick, and it is like how this thing affects the culture around them. I don't think I took photographs of any other pages, but that is like part of it, is definitely the presence of this thing throughout time.
How do you feel about the see-through, the kind of translucent word balloons? I'm wondering if that, I'm unsure if that does much to it.
I think that just, to me, it like gives that sense of the stability. Like you were saying, they kind of look ghostly, and I think that's right. Like if you slow down your perception of time, It's like the very first photograph that was ever taken. It's of a busy street in Paris, but since the exposure is like 30 minutes, like
Mhm.
only one person shows up because he stopped to get his shoes shined and otherwise looks like an empty street.
Okay.
And I think this kind of has that same effect of like they are present, but they're also just these passing things on a much more permanently present object. And
Okay.
the lettering kind of gives me that sense as well.
Yeah, I guess it'd be weird if the characters were kind of see-through, but the lettering looked more concrete.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. The only one that seems a little weird to me is like it showing up in his arm here.
Huh. Yeah, I feel like I'm able to forgive a ton of things that I always wonder what it'd be like to take a thing like this and just tweak transparency slightly and things like the balloons and then read them and see how differently it affected things.
I'll like put it in Photoshop and see if it reads
Yeah,
differently. We could do that. You want to do that?
sure. I mean, something that I like to play around with, like recently I was lettering my friend Wyatt's comic Bolero, and like my whole job was just to take his dialogue and put it over Luana's fantastic art, and just where you put the balloons really affects kind of how the page reads. I got really obsessed with that.
But also like when you're constrained by someone else's art, you don't want to like you want to put the balloon somewhere, but there's art in the way.
Yeah, I mean, I realized that lettering someone else's work requires you to step on their toes a little bit in ways that I was kind of unsure that because I was doing the sound effects in some of it too. And there's things where I
Is
was actually even doing like characters would be texting, and I was doing like the text messages, and so I would have to do little things that were kind of like drawing in it, and I would always message the artist and just be like, hey, just so you know, I'm doing this, but it was strange because comics, the lettering and the art are so tied together.
that the first time you've ever done it, just as a letterer?
Yeah, I think so. No, wait, years ago I did a Conan comic that my ex-wife drew. It was like
Okay.
a Tim Truman written Conan comic in a Dark Horse book. But that one I hand lettered. This one I actually made a font for, so it was less dramatic.
And if you were married at the time, I'm assuming then you have more access to like, hey, come here real quick.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
Uh,
so you're wanting to see what it would look like if it was
yeah,
not necessarily white, but seeing what it looks like without the.
yeah. Essentially, if those things felt more kind of concrete.
Okay,
'Cause
let's take it.
I don't know how we think of word balloons, but I always feel like they're made out of the same material as the gutter.
Oh, like metaphysically, they're the same.
Yeah, I don't know if I've
They're
ever
like
said that out loud, but it's like the building material is gutter.
they exist in between. I guess it depends on how you handle it. I've never
Also,
thought
because of
about
Marvel
that.
Comics, the 655 BC, that text, I always think of that even in black and white. I'm always like, well, that's yellow, of course.
Oh, just because you're used to like the old print books.
Yeah, exactly. I could probably have I have an old Marvel Comics The Thing book here. I feel like the text that they have that in will be yellow. Yeah, I guess Marvel did that. I don't know if it show up here, but
Hold on, let me
with the
stop
yellow.
sharing the screen. Let me see that again.
Let me find it again. These are really fun, kind of off topic. I have. Is that showing up?
Oh yeah, yeah. They always were yellow like that, right?
Yeah, I have a couple issues of this thing where the thing was like after Secret Wars, he was traveling around in space with this Amazon woman.
What? That looks
Yeah.
kind of fun. And that's a reprint or that's the actual?
Oh, this is the one. I think this is from 1984. Has a Last Starfighter added.
Oh, that movie was cool. That was the one where he gets abducted while he's playing the video game.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
He's the arcade at the gas station.
Yeah, yeah. He gets so good at the video game that that the aliens come down and we're like, we need you to be our champion.
Man, I miss movies like that.
Yeah, it was certainly a type. Anyway, so I don't know. How do you feel about how the lettering affects it here?
That's what I'm gonna see. I'm gonna try and color it back in now so it looks, it's not like too white, because obviously right now it's too white, right?
Right, because you want it to be the same color as the border. But I wonder if the border was white too, if that would affect things.
Well, I think it is a white paper, it's just my photo of it makes it
Yeah,
look
sure.
gray. Let's see. It definitely makes it feel more solid in a way that's awkward.
It does add a certain something that makes it feel like the words are more or less temporal than the people.
Yeah, and I get why he would go. Let's do a real sloppy job of this. I get why he would go in and just make everything see through if you're really focusing on. It's an interesting experiment
Yeah.
doing this. That was a good idea. But I get why, if you're trying to create a sense of like an alternate perception of stretched out time, why you would make everything seem ghostly.
Yeah, I think you made the right decision.
Yeah, it makes sense. So let's get that to like that versus that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is, I mean, I think Andrew White's amazing, so of
Yeah.
course it's the right decision.
There's a thing in painted comics you see a lot where they would do word balloons like that. And
Yeah,
I always felt like it was them unwilling to give up. Like they're like, I painted this square inch. People need to see it.
I was looking at a Dave McKean book, and I think that's something that he did a lot.
Oh yeah. Was it Cages?
No, just pretty much all of his work has that. And I thought, maybe that's something that turns people off to his work. But then when I was doing the abolition of man,
Mhm.
I'll pull up let me pump my book here while
Sure.
we're talking about it. I'll pull up a page. The thing was generating like very Dave McKean looking. Let me find it. I mean, like this is one of the images it made, and like how
Okay.
Dave McKean can you get, right?
Yeah,
And
was
when
you that was talking about how Dave McKinnon and Bill Sienkiewicz were basically like proto versions of this?
yeah, I don't know if it's just that they're so tapped into like the collective subconscious that like that's a Dave McKean picture, right?
Yeah, certainly so. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just that they're that tapped into the collective subconscious as artists that they're pulling these same type of archetypal images, or
Or
if
I mean, they're robots from the future.
the AI has been just fed so many like, oh, do Phil Hale, do Dave McKean, do Craig Mullins, there's a lot of people doing that the AI have just learned that that's what we supposedly want.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
But
they're sorry, what were we saying, Chris?
I was gonna say, but it's very on the lettering, like when I was lettering that book with the very Dave McKean looking stuff, I would try and put like solid captions or solid word balloons over things, and it just looked too stark against all of the color, and there's no line anywhere, and so having something that's so like stark and linear just didn't look right.
Oh yeah, that's always my argument on why painted comics are so hard to do is you need to have it match the yeah. So did you end up using like a grayer line for the lettering, or was it just translucent? Transparent?
So what I did was, like, instead of doing a word balloon, I just put like black on top of it because there's enough black everywhere that I didn't feel like the words needed to be colored.
Mhm.
And so but then you're dealing with like this type of stuff where you have contrast changes behind the letterings potentially that makes it harder to read, like color changes and stuff. And that was difficult. So the one edit I had to make was like I would go behind and like I didn't edit the images so much as just like lighten something up, or like if there was something dark there, I'd do like a content aware delete, you know, just to make room for the lettering. Plus it's like a pretty wordy book and we had to create room, but I didn't feel like big caption boxes would look good with this art either.
Yeah, no, I think you did the right thing.
So I get why like a lot of artists like Dave McKean do this look that we're looking at with the Andrew White thing,
Mhm.
where they do this kind of, I mean, he obviously has like a formal reason for it, but I think for them it's a practical problem.
And you're switching between like black and white lettering. Are there any places where you like where you kind of had a hard time deciding which contrast to go?
Yeah, because there's places, I don't know, I would try and make room, but I mean, what do you go with on like a mid green, you know? Do you go
Yeah.
black or white? It's like, well, there's green, there's black in there. So it was a difficult, you know, and I don't like right here, there's dark and then there's the pretty bright red, and it's like, well, you need the white, but I don't think it's the best solution. Well, maybe the best solution for what we've got, but it's just images like this are hard to letter.
Yeah, certainly.
But you put a word balloon over it and it looks pretty bad as well. It was much easier on issue 2. We'll do some spoileries here.
Sure.
Yeah,
Oh, and he's almost a limited palette.
And it's like line, it's a line work style, and so you can just plunk lettering in there. That one doesn't have balloons on it. But you can put balloons in pretty easy and it looks okay.
I feel like this one you could just publish and tell people it was a German translated book. No one would notice.
Yeah, well, this one is more of a story, and so we spent time like trying to get it what we wanted it to be,
Okay.
you know, and I put in a prompt of like pen and ink, black and white, so it's consistent, kind of a consistent look throughout. So yeah, I like that better. And then you were talking about changing color for lettering, right? Was that something you were mentioning?
Yeah, certainly.
So that I did, because this issue 5, we haven't really announced it yet, but there's a 5th issue. On this one, I don't think these have it yet. I went back and changed it, but I was like, yeah, instead of black, I would maybe do like a dark brown.
Okay.
And that seemed, because these are so designy, like instead of having white, you get like the cream color from out of here, just to harmonize it a little bit more. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so those are things that I never really thought about until I was working on this, and it just didn't look right.
Yeah.
And this one is so much more like poster art that I felt like I could be more expressive with the type.
Yeah, it definitely has. It seems like the line art one kind of you lose all the Sienkiewicz McKean stuff, but as soon as it's like a painted color, it comes back.
Well, the other thing was the Sienkiewicz McKean stuff is what happened when I just fed it a prompt and I didn't put any constraints on the style.
Okay.
That's just the style that it seemed to work in. The other one I was telling it pen and ink, black and white, and that seemed to get that, yeah, German expressionist thing. And then on the 5th issue, I was telling it graphic design, infographics, because that seemed to relate to what the content is.
Okay.
But issue 1 and issue 4, I just typed in whatever the text was, and yeah, it's that Dave McKean thing. So it is an interesting problem with painted comics, the lettering for sure.
Yeah. I wonder. Do you have any favorite painted comics?
Definitely anything by Dave McKean.
Sure. Yeah, I remember. I guess it's not painted, but yeah, Cages. I remember really like that was the first comic I read that really felt like the same experience of reading a novel.
Yeah, but Cages is mostly black
Yeah,
and white pen and ink
designer.
drawings with like one tone. I don't know. Do you have any standouts?
I really liked the Havoc and Wolverine meltdown. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Kent Williams.
Yeah, Kent Williams and John J. Muth. And that was always one of my favorite versions of Wolverine, where he's just kind of like slouched over with a pot belly, and his tail, his ears are just kind of behind him, like it's like
Yeah.
coattails dragging.
Let me see if I can pull up an image of that.
Yeah, I remember enjoying Moonshadow a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah, Moonshadow was one of my favorite. I've tried to read it more recently and I couldn't. It was just too wordy.
I mean, people all comics if those count, because I like his stuff a lot, but he does like the black lines, so I might not.
Whose comics?
Inky Bilal, the
Oh yeah,
Nicopole trilogy guy.
yeah. I like him better when he's doing his like Moebius type of style than
Oh, certainly.
his chalk style. But see, I think with Kent Williams, it works because there's still line underneath it oftentimes.
Okay, I do feel like there's something kind of jarring about it. If you can find the letter, yeah, like the lettering there looks a little weird to me. It's so clean. Who's that Havoc based off of? It looks like such a specific actor.
This,
Yeah.
I'm not like 80s enough in my knowledge to to pull that one out.
It's such a funny contrast, because so each artist was doing one of the different characters, right?
Is that what it was? It's
Yeah,
been a
I think
long time
Williams
since I've
must have
looked
been
at
doing
this.
Wolverine, and John J. Muth was doing Havoc.
It's definitely Williams on Wolverine, and that looks like Muth, yeah. See, and I think Muth doesn't work as well in comics because he's not as linear. He's more washy and shapy.
Huh.
Whereas Williams has all those. It's still a drawing that's just painted for the colors. I think like Alex Ross is really the one guy I can think of that like straight up paints.
Oh, sure. Modern
Works. Or the stuff Travis Charest.
Oh, that stuff was really good too. There was a recent guy, he's a European guy who did a Conan one shot I got recently. Spacing out his name, he was doing a recent run of the Eternals, I think.
Oh, Assad Ribic.
Yeah, Assad Ribic.
But his stuff is he pencils it and then they digitally color it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, his stuff's really beautiful.
And so it still has a linear element. I guess he does paint too, but
I mean that almost looks like Kent Williams.
Yeah.
Or Muth.
This is a guy I've been looking at a lot on Instagram.
Oh, fascinating.
But when he does
very Alex Ross Superman. Sorry, what were you saying?
When he does actual pages, he does kind of the same thing as Assad Ribic. He does like this very Serpillère type of crosshatchy stuff, and then
somebody just sent me Serpillère handed Druna over to another artist, and another team is making Druna comics now, which is bizarre.
What? Who's the artist?
It's not, I forget the guy's name, but yeah, it feels like it's a little more realistic than Serpillère stuff. And I wonder if you can type in Druna and not get this video taken down.
Banned.
Because there was something where Serpillère lost the rights to Druna at some point in that Amina book, where kind of Druna shows up at the end as a reveal.
I haven't read this stuff in a while. I was like super into this when I was a kid, and then like at some point I got rid of them, and then I just feel like I'm gonna get in trouble if I buy them again because they're so perverse. Like
it's fantastic stuff, but yeah, it's very. I remember Heavy Metal, when they printed them in English, they had to do these really dramatic edits to allow it to even get on the newsstands over here, where they would just have panels that were like blacked out.
Or they would put the word balloons like right over the.
Yeah, like someone's entire pelvis would just be like, "Oh my," or something with this giant around it.
Druna is coming back. Who's the new artist?
Oh yeah, that looks like the new one. Yeah, so it's close, but it's kind of not. it seems a little more like standard, like Serpieri. I feel like Serpieri, like he's one of the only people who can draw cross hatching on a woman's skin and it looks smooth, which is really impressive to me, where this guy looks more like a, you know, kind of, he's doing less of a hat trick here.
Yeah, he's leaving her alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this looks like who's that other heavy metal artist that did the it was another, it looked like Druna. She was walking around naked, but there was like it was kind of like a cowboy.
I think I know what you're talking about. It's the one, I'm spacing on the name, but yeah, it was kind of like a more of a Western thing about a guy and a girl.
Yeah.
Horses.
Yeah, it looks like that artist. I can't think of his name.
Yeah,
No, this.
There's a lot in Europe lately. There's been a lot of kind of handing out the torch to different artists. Like I know they did a Corto Maltese that was with a new artist, and the Asterix just moved over to a new artist for the first book. And I think that the problem, or at least my problem with it, which probably no one else's problem with it, is that they try to have people that maintain the style too much. And I feel like it's kind of a loss if somebody's like because this guy's, no matter what he does, he's never going to be Serpieri. So it almost would be better to have somebody who's as strong in their own style come in and do their own version of Druna.
Yeah, who's the artist here? This is history and scenario design. The drawing is by D'Eon, and then it's colored by someone else too.
Okay.
So Serpieri would have colored his own stuff. Yeah, that you're 100% correct. I've always been fascinated. We've gone so far off, but that's okay. Yeah, like how do you do a woman's face with that much like cross hatching on it, or her ass, right? Like,
sure.
And it doesn't look bad. Like,
and what kind of madman is like, oh, let me draw this beautiful woman, let me cover her in cross hatching,
and then it works. Like,
yeah, it's fantastic.
It always works. But also he was coloring his own stuff, so oops. Gotta be so careful here. It was always his color that was part of the look of it. Nah, you gotta leave that alone. Just leave that be. Don't hand that over to someone else.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fascinating. I mean, she's such an iconic European character. It'd be fascinating if they had some, other interesting artists do their take on it. Like the only one I can think of is like get Bud Root to draw an issue or something, but I don't know if Bud Root's got a bunch of pull and.
You know who needs to do it? The only other guy that can crosshatch like that on women.
The Crumb.
Well, yeah, that would be cool. Frank Cho.
Oh, fast! Cho wants it too bad. He'd be too happy. He'd be too ready.
Yeah.
He's already got an issue drawn.
Yeah, he has that fan art somewhere ready to go.
Yeah,
in his closet. Yeah, he's the only other guy I can think of that will draw. Well, Crumb, that likes some THICC.
I mean, Crumb would be a guy who it would be like a Christmas miracle to be like, here's a Druna book by Crumb, and he's you catch him in the right mood, he might be a pervert enough to do it. Like here's 60 inked pages that are now worth the a city block in Paris.
Yeah, and those are two artists. They both like their women thick.
Yeah,
and they can both crosshatch on a big thick thigh and ass. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we're
I like that it dragged our conversation into the gutter. It was so pleasant.
We started with like Andrew White looking at time with his beautiful sensibilities, and now we're into no, I like it. We're putting that out there in the universe. We want a Frank Cho, Robert Crumb collaboration on Druna.
Oh, and I'm gonna show my hand here, and I would say Milo Manara Druna would be. I'm surprised there isn't a Milo Manara Druna, because he did a Barbarella comic at one point.
Well, it's just like Druna is such a it's that artist, like why would anyone else ever do it? And they would have been contemporaries, so I would think there would be like a respect there as like the two best porno artists of Europe of the time. They just say, okay, he's he's over there fucking monsters, and I'm over here like raping women with my little radio controller.
I mean, yeah, the click. I mean, it is fascinating because I can't name another another artist post Hugo Pratt. I can't name an Italian artist whose work I deeply love that isn't generally thought of as a pornographer, unless it's guys that came over and worked for Marvel or something. I can't off the top of my head. Can you?
No, I'm not super familiar with. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Definitely not off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some. I mean, that maybe that's just showing my hand too much in my love of European comics. But
is Topi, Sergio Topi? Is he Italian? He's got to be Italian.
He might be. I don't know. You know who else is Italian? I think is the Ranzerox guy, Liberatore.
Oh, but he's pretty porno too,
Yeah,
isn't he?
Perfect.
Yeah, Sergio Topi would be the one
Okay.
guy that I would think is like contemporary with them that I don't think of as pornographic. I don't. To me, the European guys all kind of blend together. I'm so American that I don't like, I don't piece things off into like, here's France, here's Italy, that's Europe, we're the United States.
Oh, yeah, Toby is Italian.
Yeah.
For some reason,
Sergio
I thought he was South American.
Yeah, I could see that. No, I'm pretty sure he's Italian. Mosquito would be his main publication. Okay, well, we've gone way off. So we'll say thanks for following us, guys, and we'll catch you for another Formalism Friday.
One of the best ways that you can support what we're doing here on the channel is to support the books that Sean's putting out through Living the Line. The first book that he put out is The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. It's a collaboration between Dave Sim and myself. The book was recently nominated for an Eisner Award in the Best Reality-Based category. It's a deep dive into the artwork and methods of Alex Raymond and the mystery surrounding his death in a car crash. So if you haven't grabbed that already, please do. The Abolition of Man is a 5-issue mini-series done by myself and Sean in collaboration with the Midjourney AI. What you're seeing here is the cover to issue 1 and the first couple pages of issue 1. This first issue, we fed it an essay by C.S. Lewis, and this is just the imagery that the computer spat back at us. Issues 2 and 3 are a narrative, starting with the story that I wrote when I was 21, and then Sean's going to write issue 3, picking up where I left off. In this one, I'm kind of trying to force the AI to give me the images I want, and then doing some tweaking in Photoshop to get these kind of colored looks on it. For issue 4, we're turning the task of writing over to the AI as well. So the AI has written the script, and then we've just put that into the Midjourney AI, and it's turned out art. The script and the art is some of the absolutely most horrific stuff I've ever seen. We're a bit scared to even publish this issue. And I don't have any art to show for it yet, but Sean and I have decided to do a 5th issue of Abolition as well, because we have someone who we're really excited to have on board, providing an essay for that 5th issue that we'll illustrate, and we'll announce more about that soon. There's also Yokoyama Yuichi's Plaza, which is a totally intense manga by an artist who has somehow figured out how to distill manga down to its purest essence. This book was successfully funded on Kickstarter, but if you missed the Kickstarter, you can order it through any comic store, any bookstore, Amazon, any place that you would normally get your graphic novels from. Make sure to like, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell.